Speaking of comic books, I mean, the audience is going to be bored of this, but it's important to me because I have a long history with this company. As you may or may not know, I owned a comic shop for 10 years. And I had to work exclusively with Diamond. Diamond is a distributor of comics. They are the accidental monopoly and another canary in the coal mine of culture. Like everything, there's still a huge appetite for comic books. If you go to a comic book convention, we're going to go to MegaCon in a couple weeks. That place is going to be fucking full. Back issues are selling like crazy. You know, manga still sells very well. I say manga. But yeah, it's crazy sales. French comic books sell fucking great. Like there's still a huge market for it. Not just it's probably because America hasn't branched out past superheroes, but they need to do that. That's aside. So they were the one and lone distributor for comic stores. They were a monopoly, whether they wanted to be or not, and they acted like one. They had no competition, so they didn't have to innovate anything. When I got to my comic store in 2003, my ordering software, it was DOS. It was fucking DOS. I had to have an older computer that couldn't be turned off. If the power went out, I was fucked, and I had to call somebody to reboot the stupid thing because it was so fucking old. It was a nightmare.
I don't know whether that is Dossie's fault or yours. Like, it could be either.
That is
I don't know where the power button is.
I'm not completely retarded when it comes to computer, but I was with this one. Okay, I was just like, I don't fucking know. And then, so, you know, we had a lot of complaints with them as stores, and I mean, there were some good people there. Dave Hawksworth, my rep, was really good. But you know, the first thing I thought of when I got there and I was told to shut up and sit down at my first retailer meeting is like, why do we only have one distributor? And it's because Diamond bought all the other ones, right? But like, that's not good. I would like to have a choice, and I would like to see some competition. And the problem has always been nobody really wanted to distribute comic books. And if nobody really wants to distribute them, that's a fucking problem, because it's such a pain in the ass. And it's a pain in the ass a lot of the times because of the retailers. A few powerful retailers were calling all the fucking shots for everybody. They had the ear of all the major publishers. And the rest of us who were asking questions were kind of left out in the cold. That's just the way it is, whatever. And now they're filing for bankruptcy. It's Chapter 11. They're reorganizing. Now, Diamond doesn't distribute Marvel or DC anymore. Marvel and DC broke away from them. And now there's multiple distributors, but they're like half distributors. They're not like, again, nobody wants to distribute comic books. There's no desire to do it, or a company would go out there and fucking do it right. Like, believe me, if somebody had enough money and wherewithal, they could compete against Diamond immediately because they were so fucking incompetent a lot of the times. Now, Steve Jeppe was the owner. You know, I've never met the guy, but he famously was on a Brian Hibbs live stream saying that, hey, during COVID, this is when all this shit went down during COVID, right? And the comic industry had a great time to like reevaluate and maybe start from scratch and save themselves. But instead, they all ran into their corners and they didn't do fucking shit. Jim Lee, who was the president of DC at the time, instead of like brokering a deal with Marvel to like do this exciting comic book, maybe together that would get people into the fucking stores, decided to make a fucking sketchbook. Or and like maybe just Jim Lee do it like some basic bitch shit. Have Jim Lee do a Batman book. Do something to get people in. They didn't fucking do it. And they just fought. And now they're in bankruptcy. I'm surprised it took this long.
I am too, to be honest with you, because when they put it on the pause, I mean, that's ultimately what led DC to break away from Diamond. And now you have Brian Hibbs blaming DC for this, when in reality, it really is Diamond's fault. They're the ones that decided to stop distribution and basically fuck the industry.
So what practice specifically put them in the hole so much? Because they are in debt to a lot of companies. They owe millions of dollars.
The shutdown.
COVID shutdown, irresponsible spending by Steve Jeppe. Our friend Neon can probably talk about this a little more because he's done a lot of work within the comic book industry as a freelancer, and maybe wasn't paid. But Steve Jeppe had this big museum, I remember, that he put a bunch of money into because he was a collector too. So there's that. And it just never was a big industry. It's never made a ton of money. You don't own a comic shop to make money. You want to pay your bills, you want to get by, but you love it. That's I never made a ton of money at the comic store. I did all right, but until I relapsed. But but that's a different story.
You were so successful at it, though.
I was really good at the relapse. I was fucking great. Hey, my store won Best of the Bay one year. My store won Best of the Bay in 2009.
So how does the structure work? So you're a comic book shop and you have the distributor. You order a specific number. You get to choose, or does the distributor tell you?
No, you get one fucking catalog to, if you're just going to be Diamond. Now, like, there's a sides to this. There's always exceptions. I could have used Baker and Taylor to get graphic novels and trades. And I did once in a while, but you were a Diamond storefront. You had your catalog, you ordered out of that. There's a huge independent section that really took the most, like the Marvel and DC stuff was pretty easy to go through. It was going through the independent stuff and picking and choosing. That was kind of the hardest because you wanted to read the books and you wanted to help people out. But like, dude, it was like the BBC, the NPR of comic book shops. Like, you made no fucking money on it. You just did it because you wanted to take a chance on somebody, and you took your losses on that. And hopefully the Marvel and DC books can cover your losses on that. A rare exception, an independent book goes crazy. It does, but most of the time they didn't make any fucking money. So you order that and you buy. So when you buy your comic books every week, you own them. I own those comic books. They're not returnable. You get a pretty good discount. You get a 55% discount for Marvel and DC, depending on how much you order. It could vary between 52 and 55. It might have changed since then. I don't really care. But yeah, they made it very convenient. So it was really convenient. That's why a lot of retailers didn't want to change. And it was a direct market. So like Diamond has never been honest about how many accounts they had. They said there was 3,000 comic book stores, but that could, some of that could be collectors who qualified for a Diamond account. That could be online retailers. So we don't know how many brick and mortar retailers there were at the time, and never did. So we never knew like how really healthy our industry was because nobody shared information. So you could say 180,000 units sold for a comic book, but how many actually sold to customers? And then out of those 180,000 units, how many were variants? So how many times were you selling the same book to the customer? And how many of those customers were actually reading their comic books? Mm-hmm. And it's a surprisingly low number. It's a lot of it's just collecting it, throwing it in a box, and treating it like a sports card.
That's what makes me think like that's why the top industry, like the DC and Marvel, they don't know that their books don't sell because they're not the ones selling it. They have like 3 layers of filters between them. Like if Diamond buys the books from them or distributes the books from them, that's one layer of filter. And then the shops buy them. They buy a big chunk and it looks like, oh, look, all of our books got sold. But really it's that they're sitting on the shelf. They're not getting read. Nobody's buying them. Like, there's layers, it seems like.
There's tons of layers to it.
Back to these people.
So, make a long story short, it's doing what theaters are doing now. So, again, canary in a coal mine. They're charging more money they're charging more for tickets. They're charging more for comic books to fewer people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're counting the dollars, but you're not counting units sold, actual tickets sold to people. And that's a way for one, that's an industry that's reached maturity, that's on the decline, and you're just trying to and then it's always been niche. I think I looked it up recently, and supposedly comic books, and this is counting manga, kids books, graphic novels, is a $2 billion. It generates $2 billion. In truth, American comic books, the floppy is what, 600 million? 500 million? It's a very small number of people, which is crazy when you see how crowded these comic conventions are. And when they used to be story driven, people used to I'm running into this comic shop, not for some fucking variant or not for the 80th relaunch of some absolute ultimate crazy Dark Knight Returns Batman. I'm like, just a regular Batman story, like Hush. You're running in to go see a story. Like, those days are gone. And if people aren't actually reading them, then your industry is fucking cooked. It's just going to go back to being niche and independent, and they'll whatever they're going to do. They're going to farm them out to third-party companies until it just it's already on the long waning. It's dwindling, and it's sad. But do I get some sort of weird enjoyment out of Diamond like filing for Chapter 11? I'll just say, my personal experience is they almost fucked up my bankruptcy. They purposely almost fucked up my bankruptcy. So fuck you, Diamond. Go fuck yourself. Thank you.